My girlfriend said she was pregnant and pressured me to buy a house. She didn't know I'd had a vasectomy last year. I played along. At the baby shower, in front of her entire family, I stood up to make a toast. Then I handed her the doctor's report and congratulated the real father, who was standing right next to her. The day my girlfriend Chloe told me she was pregnant should have been the happiest day of my life. She stood in the middle of our living room, holding one of those little white sticks, tears of joy streaming down her face. She fell into my arms, sobbing about how she couldn't wait to start our family. How this was a dream come true. I held her. I hugged her back. I told her I was happy. I was a very convincing actor, because in that moment my heart wasn't filled with joy, it was a cold, empty void. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion, betrayal, and a single, undeniable biological fact. That baby was not mine. Here's the secret that Chloe didn't know. 18 months ago, long before I ever met her, I had a vasectomy. My previous relationship had ended in a messy, traumatic pregnancy scare, and I had made a firm, private decision that I was not going to bring a child into this world until I was absolutely certain I was with the right person and in a stable, committed partnership. I went through the procedure, and 6 weeks later, I went back for the follow-up tests. The results were conclusive. My sperm count was 0. I was, for all intents and purposes, sterile. I hadn't told Chloe about it. Our relationship, while serious, hadn't yet reached the stage of concrete, logistical family planning. We had talked about wanting kids someday, but it was always in a vague, abstract way. I was planning to tell her, of course. It was a conversation I knew we would have to have when someday started to become soon. But her surprise announcement had ambushed me. She had jumped the gun, and in doing so, she had revealed her entire hand. Her tears of joy dried up remarkably quickly, replaced by a steely, practical focus. "We can't raise a baby in this tiny apartment, Ryan," she said, her voice suddenly all business. "We need a house, a real house, with a yard. For the baby." And there it was. The motive. The past few months she had been obsessed with the idea of buying a house, constantly sending me listings for expensive properties far outside our budget. I had been the voice of reason, telling her we needed to save more, to wait until we were more financially secure. Now, she had a biological trump card to play. The baby was her leverage, the key to unlocking the life of suburban luxuries she felt she deserved. The rage I felt was a cold, quiet thing. This wasn't just a simple act of infidelity. This was a conspiracy. This was a calculated, premeditated attempt to defraud me, to trap me in a mortgage and 18 years of financial responsibility for a child that was not mine. My first instinct was to confront her, to throw the vasectomy report in her face and watch her lies crumble. But where was the justice in that? It would be a messy, private argument. She would create a new lie, a new story to spin. She would claim I was the one who was lying, that I was trying to shirk my responsibilities. No, a betrayal this elaborate deserved a more theatrical conclusion. She wanted to play the part of the glowing, expectant mother. Fine. I would play the part of the doting, supportive father-to-be. I would let her build her stage, decorate her set, and invite her entire audience. And when the curtain finally rose on her big performance, I would be there to rewrite the ending. I started observing. I became a quiet detective in my own life. I knew the baby had to be conceived around 9 weeks ago. I scrolled back through her social media, her calendar. And there it was, a work conference in another city. A conference I now seriously doubted had ever happened. In the photos she had posted from that weekend, one man was a constant presence. Her work bestie, Ben. He was in every picture, his arm a little too close around her, their smiles a little too intimate. I now had his name. Ben. The likely father. That weekend, I told Chloe she was right. We needed to be responsible. We needed to find a house for our new family. The look of triumph on her face was sickening. She spent the entire weekend dragging me to open houses. I smiled, I nodded, I asked intelligent questions about property taxes and school districts. I was the perfect image of a committed future father. She had no idea that I wasn't just looking at houses. I was gathering intelligence, biding my time, and planning the most elaborate, most public, and most satisfying baby shower anyone had ever seen. Update 1. The past 7 months have been the most surreal and disingenuous period of my life. I have become a master of the supportive nod, the encouraging smile, the feigned excitement. I have played the role of the proud, expectant father so convincingly that I think I deserve an award. The house hunt became the central focus of our lives. Chloe was relentless. Every weekend was a marathon of open houses and meetings with realtors. Her parents got involved, of course. They were overjoyed at the news of their first grandchild and fully supportive of Chloe's quest to get me to buy a house. They would send me links to listings, call me for updates, and offer unsolicited financial advice. I politely thanked them, all while feeling like a character in a very strange, very slow-moving play. I became an expert at creating believable delays. I was the picture of financial prudence. When they found a house they deemed perfect, I would be the one to find the flaws. The inspection report shows some potential foundation issues, I'd say gravely. It's too much of a risk for the baby. Or, I spoke to the bank and with the current interest rates, we'd be over-leveraged. We need to be smart about this. I even got pre-approved for a massive mortgage, a step that sent Chloe into fits of joy. It was a simple, reversible process, but to her it was a concrete sign of my commitment. Every move I made was designed to reinforce her belief that her plan was working perfectly. She thought my caution was just my boring, predictable nature. She had no idea it was a calculated strategy to stall for time. Meanwhile, I was watching her, and I was watching Ben, the work bestie. He was around more and more, always under the guise of being a supportive friend. He would come over for dinner. He would help assemble the baby crib, an act of such profound irony it was almost poetic. He would pat me on the back and say things like, "You're a lucky man, Ryan. She's going to be a great mom." I would just smile and agree, all while feeling the urge to ask him if he had any good names picked out. The centerpiece of this grand deception was, of course, the baby shower. Chloe's mother and sister took charge of the planning. It was going to be a massive affair, a huge catered event at her parents' house, with dozens of guests from her side of the family and all of our mutual friends. Chloe insisted that Ben be on the guest list. "He's just been so supportive through all of this," she said, her eyes shining with fake sincerity. "He's like an uncle to this baby already." "Of course," I said, "we have to invite Ben." I even offered to pay for half of the shower's expenses. I transferred a significant amount of money to her mother's account. It was an investment. I was funding the construction of my own gallows, and I wanted them to be perfect. The final piece of my own plan was the most important. I called the urologist who had performed my vasectomy. I explained that I needed a formal, notarized letter for my medical records. The letter was simple. It detailed the date of my procedure, the dates of my follow-up tests, and a concluding statement signed by the doctor, confirming with medical certainty that my sperm count was 0 and that I was sterile. I received the letter in a sealed envelope a week ago. It has been sitting in the top drawer of my desk ever since. It is a single sheet of paper that holds more destructive power than a bomb. The baby shower is tomorrow. The house is decorated, the gifts are wrapped, the guests are confirmed. Chloe is radiant, the perfect picture of a glowing mother-to-be. She believes she is one day away from the culmination of her grand plan. She thinks she is about to be celebrated. She has no idea she is about to be exposed. Update 2. The baby shower was, by all accounts, a spectacular event. Chloe's mother had outdone herself. The house and backyard were decorated in a tasteful explosion of pastel pinks and blues. There were balloons, streamers, a mountain of beautifully wrapped gifts, and a 3-tiered cake with little baby booties on top. It was a perfect, Instagrammable fantasy. I arrived with Chloe, playing my part. I mingled. I accepted congratulations from her aunts and uncles. I shook hands with her father's business partners. I was the proud, happy father-to-be. I even had a long, excruciatingly pleasant conversation with Ben, the actual father. He was in his element, the charming, supportive friend. He clapped me on the back. He told me I was a lucky man. I agreed. The irony was so thick, I felt like I was wading through it. After an hour of small talk and opening gifts, so many tiny clothes, so many useless gadgets, the moment arrived. Chloe's mother, beaming, tapped a glass with a spoon to get everyone's attention. "I just want to thank you all for coming to celebrate this beautiful day," she said. "We are all so excited to welcome a new member to our family. And now, I'd like to ask the proud father-to-be, Ryan, to say a few words." A hush fell over the crowd. All eyes turned to me. This was it. Showtime. I stood up, a champagne glass in my hand, a warm, practiced smile on my face. Chloe looked at me, her eyes shining with adoration. She thought she was about to be showered with praise. "Thank you, everyone," I began, my voice clear and steady. "I'm not much of a public speaker, but this is a special occasion. Today is about celebrating a new life. It's about celebrating motherhood, and it's about celebrating family." I paused and looked around at all the smiling, expectant faces. "Family," I continued, "is built on a foundation of trust, of honesty, of unconditional love. And as I stand here on the verge of starting my own family, I've been thinking a lot about those principles. I am so incredibly excited for Chloe to become a mother. I know she has all the love and support she could ever need, right here in this room." I raised my glass. "So I would like to make a toast. But first I have two very special gifts to share. One for the mother-to-be, and one for the man who has been so incredibly supportive throughout this journey." I looked directly at Ben. He was standing near the gift table, a smug, self-satisfied look on his face. He thought I was talking about him in a friendly way. "My first gift," I said, my voice ringing with false cheer, "is a heartfelt congratulations to the real father." I turned my body, raised my glass, and looked directly at Ben. "Congratulations, Ben," I said, my smile unwavering. "I truly wish you and Chloe all the best in your future together." A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Ben's face went from smug to utterly baffled. Chloe's smile froze, then completely vanished, replaced by a mask of pure, white-hot panic. But I wasn't finished. "And my second gift," I said, my voice turning cold, "is for you, Chloe." I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket and pulled out a crisp, white, sealed envelope. I walked over to her, my footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. She was staring at me, her eyes wide with terror, as if she was just now realizing the ground beneath her was a trapdoor. I handed her the envelope. "This," I said, my voice now just a quiet, conversational tone that everyone could hear, "is a notarized copy of the medical report from my vasectomy last year. I thought you might need it for your records and for the birth certificate." I then turned back to the crowd of horrified, speechless guests. I raised my champagne glass one last time. "To honesty," I said, "and to family." I took a sip of my champagne, placed the glass gently on a nearby table, and walked out of the party. The silence behind me was absolute. It was the sound of a perfectly executed demolition. Final update: it has been 6 months since I made my toast at the baby shower from hell. I didn't stick around for the fireworks. I simply got in my car and drove away, leaving a crater in the middle of Chloe's picture-perfect life. The story of what happened next came to me in fragmented pieces from mutual friends and acquaintances who had witnessed the explosion. Apparently, the moment I walked out, the party descended into absolute chaos. The stunned silence was broken by Chloe's mother demanding to know what was in the envelope. Chloe, sobbing and hysterical, refused to open it, so her father took it from her trembling hands and read the doctor's report out loud. All eyes then turned to Ben. Trapped, cornered, and faced with the fury of Chloe's entire family, he crumbled. He admitted everything. The affair, the lie, the plan. The baby shower immediately turned into a screaming match between Chloe's father and Ben, while Chloe just sat there, catatonic, amidst a mountain of baby gifts that were no longer hers. The aftermath was a swift and total devastation of the life Chloe had tried to build. Her engagement was, of course, over. The friends who had been at the party were horrified, and the story of her deception spread like wildfire. She became a social pariah overnight. Her family, who had been her biggest enablers, were humiliated and furious. They hadn't just been lied to, they had been made to look like fools in front of their entire social circle. They are supporting her financially through the pregnancy, but their relationship is reportedly strained to the breaking point. They feel betrayed, not just by her, but by the perfect daughter they thought they had. Ben, the supportive work bestie, is now facing the reality of 18 years of child support. Their affair, which was a fun, exciting secret, did not survive the harsh light of public exposure and looming responsibility. I'm told they are no longer together. He is legally and financially on the hook, but he wants nothing to do with her personally. As for me, the first thing I did was get a lawyer to ensure I was completely and legally firewalled from the entire situation. We sent a formal letter to Chloe, stating that while I wished the child no ill will, I was not, and never had been, the father, and that I would be seeking legal action for fraud and emotional distress if she ever attempted to claim otherwise. She never responded. The house hunt, of course, ended. I'm still in my apartment, and I have never been more grateful for its tiny size. The money I had been pressured to save for a down payment is now in a travel fund. I'm planning a long trip to Southeast Asia next year. I did eventually have to deal with the mountain of baby gifts that had been delivered to my apartment before the shower. I boxed up every single one, the crib, the stroller, the tiny clothes, and in a final act of karmic redirection, I donated them all to a local shelter for single mothers. Looking back, my revenge wasn't the toast itself. The toast was just the reveal. The real revenge was the 7 months I spent playing along. I let her build her lie into a magnificent, towering monument. I let her invest all of her hopes, her dreams, and her reputation into it. I just stood back and provided the rope. She built her own gallows, and in the end, all I did was gently kick the chair out from under her. She tried to trap me, to lock me into a life I didn't choose with a child that wasn't mine. But she underestimated me. She thought I was simple. She thought I was clueless. She never realized that sometimes the quietest man in the room is the one who is paying the most attention.